Everybody, and welcome to our early comics preview review extravaganza video.
Lollapalooza.
All those fun things. No, it's our spoiler light preview show where we're going to be talking about some of the biggest books coming out this week. There is some really big ones, but I'm here with Infinity Flux Comics out of Chattanooga, Tennessee, and I'm Andy.
I'm Matt.
So, yeah, I thought this was a really good week. At
Yep.
least for my books, I thoroughly enjoyed them, and I think there's going to be a lot people are going to be racing out to get. I mean, just this lineup right here. Even if they don't know a whole lot about these books to start off with, like Scrapper and stuff like that, after they hear about it, that's what they're going to be running to
Yeah, and
get.
I can't wait to talk about Scrapper. Like that's the good thing about this show is I wasn't quite sure what to expect from Scrapper, and then I read it. I was like, "Holy cow!" Like I instantly want the second issue. So
Yeah, that's mainly why we do the show because just like you, we get these books in, we look at them, we're like, well, we don't really know what this is about.
yeah,
It's very hard to sell a book if you can't describe it. So we are going to be telling you all about these. And do you want to get us started?
yeah, absolutely. So we're gonna start with Blade #1. This is a new Blade series written by Brian Hill with art by Elena Casagrande, whose work I loved on Kelly Thompson's Black Widow run. So this was quite good. So this is the first appearance of a villain named Adana, and also maybe the first appearance of a character called Rotha, Rotha, who may play a part in this story. I don't know if we've seen her before. I don't know how big a part she'll play, but she was new to me anyway. So the whole thing starts with a girl named Dana Smith. She's hiding out in a club because they text her and said she'd be safe there. We'll find that out in a minute. But when she's attacked by vampires and Blade comes busting into the club and he rescues her. And for a minute, for the first few pages, I'm like, wait, I don't really know what's going on. Did I miss something? Should I have read something else? But then you flip the page and it goes back like a week earlier and explains who these people are, why Blade's doing all this stuff. And it turns out that there's a werewolf named Tanaka that tells Blade that there's a shift in the second world or the world of vampires and werewolves and specters and things like that. And that this girl named Dana Smith is at the center of all of it. He said that she's important. He says that she's charmed and that Blade needs to seek her out and protect her from from all of these things that are going to come after her. And actually, I'm going to stop right there though, because that's only about the first half of the book. The rest of it gets into a little bit spoiler territory. There was a surprise near the end of it that I did not see coming. And so I don't want to say anything too much more than that, but the whole thing is there's something coming, there's something happening in the world of
Mhm.
vampires and ghouls and stuff, and Blade has to figure out how to stop it. What part does this girl play in it? Like I said, I just don't want to spoil anything more, but it was really good, really interesting. I really wanted to read the next one, especially with not only Blade is synonymous with vampires, but with the idea of werewolves and other
Mhm.
monsters and things like that. Like it sounded really cool. So it was really really good first issue. If you like Blade, I highly recommend this. We have our A cover right here, and then we have several variants as well. We've got our Peach Momoko variant right there. We've got our David Marquez variant. I really like this one, the Stefano Caselli. I like that one quite a bit. Frank Miller still churning out some covers right there. This is the John Tyler Christopher, the negative space or the color bleed. I don't remember which one they call it, but and then we have the Invisible Woman variant, or just a blank sketch cover, whichever one you prefer. And then we have the 1 in 25 Andrews variant, which we're selling for $15.
That one's cool.
Yeah,
It's really like
Blade is the
poster.
A. Well, yeah, I like that.
Okay, next up for me, I have Hawkgirl #1. This is a new, I believe, six issue mini-series, part of the Dawn of the DC initiative they're doing right now. I love they're bringing Hawkgirl into it now that we know that she's going to be in the Superman Legacy movie and everything.
Yeah.
Get Hawkgirl back into the
Yep.
public eye. So this is written by Jadzia Axelrod, and the art is by Amanke Nehupan. And I'm sure I just scored
We
a
apologize to the
100.
creators who I'm sure are watching
No,
this.
I got it exactly right. So this is interesting. We pick up with Hawkgirl um, post the Justice League disbanding. So she's been from the Justice League. She's been on the Justice Society. It even talks about she was a member of the Blackhawks for a little while. But everything has disbanded, and she's now kind of on her own. She's always been kind of a team member, but very rarely solo. And she's trying to figure out what to do with her life. She's moved to Metropolis. We actually find her where she's in the middle of fighting some really fun villains. I won't give it away, but they're kind of like really, I won't say goofy, but just fun little monsters with Superman and Power Girl. But Superman and Power Girl are questioning her about like you seem off. Are you okay? And we find out that Hawk Girl, even though she won't admit it, is very lonely. Like she's kind of a ship without a rudder out in the middle of this. Doesn't quite know what her place in the DC universe is. Well, that's kind of her headspace in this when suddenly a mysterious character crashes or appears in the middle of this fight. And it's not a spoiler. It talks about it in the solicitation that it is the character
From the Galaxy?
Galaxy. Galaxy is from this writer's like young adult graphic novel.
Isn't that Galaxy the prettiest star or
Yeah,
something like that? Yeah.
and she's a very like I didn't read it, so I didn't know what her power set is, but apparently she can kind of control energy and light and that kind of thing, which comes in very handy with this fight. And she sees something in Hot Girl in Kendra that kind of it intrigues her, at least we'll say that. It intrigues her, especially about the wings, like the nymph metal.
Oh yeah.
uh, the way she describes how she can see them is very interesting, kind of a new layer to what the nymph metal might kind of exist as. But she knows stuff about Hot Girl. Hot Girl does not like this, and she is going to find out more about this character that has just appeared. This goes from her talking to Batman, a bunch of really fun stuff. But there is a story that's going on that's kind of cutting back and forth, which I feel like is a story they're kind of building up to. So there's a character that we don't know. We just know she refers to herself as Vulpecula. It's almost like a Dracula
Yeah, like
and
Caligula.
I think Vulpix the Pokemon.
Oh right, right. Yeah, that's what I was
She
thinking.
has some of that element to her. Um, that she basically goes to a young girl and says, "I can make all your wishes come true, but at some point I'm going to come back to and I'll need you for something." And that character seems like is going to be one of the big players in this story. The other big thing is the character that Vulpecula mentions is Nostalgia, which is a character from the end of Flashpoint Beyond.
Yeah.
Which is a character that has to do with the Watchmen universe, all of that. So there's a lot of mysteries building up in this. I feel like this is going to be a pretty big story that I think people will be very interested to follow along and see how does this factor into the main DC universe. So I gave you a lot of little pieces of this, but when you read it all together, it is a very compelling story with great art. So that is nope. That is not
that is not Hot Girl.
That is Hot Girl #1. We've got variants for this. So we have this Otto Schmidt variant, which is very cool.
Yeah.
And we have this Derek Chu variant.
I like that one.
Yeah.
All right, so sticking with DC for a minute, we've got our first Night Terrors book for the day. Where is it? It's Night Terrors Nightwing. This is the first of his 2-issue miniseries. This one is written by Becky Cloonan and Michael W. Conrad, with art by Danielle D. Nicolo. Who isn't that the artist on like Seven Secrets and?
Oh, that might be.
Yeah, and like it has a little bit of like an anime influence, not like but it was really good. So this is one of the Night Terrors books where some of the Night Terrors tie-ins, the characters know they're in a nightmare. Some of them they have no idea whatsoever. Kind of like the Flash one where I said when we did that one, if you just if you didn't know anything about Night Terrors, you would just open that book and just think, oh, there's some weirdness going on here.
Yeah.
But Nightwing's kind of the same way. Like if you didn't know about Night Terrors, you could still open it up and read it and just kind of wonder. There's a few little things that are off. What's going on? What's the story here? Because Nightwing does not know, at least at first, he does not know that he's in the nightmare realm. He wakes up in Arkham, like strapped to a table, and he's accused of murder. But he doesn't know who he murdered, and he doesn't know how he did it, when he did it, how he got to Arkham. Like he's just completely in the dark. And everybody that's working at the asylum, I don't know if they're all like anthropomorphic animals or if they're all people wearing animal masks, but they look like dogs and birds. And the two people that are carrying it from room to room, they have pig heads. So
Professor Piggage.
yeah, so I don't know. And there's something creepy that happens with that, but I don't really know. I couldn't tell really one way or the other. But so they throw him in a cell, and he's thrown in a cell next to Two Face, who makes reference to Nightwing's cellmate, and also the guards that throw him in there. They say, "Have fun with your cellmate," and he looks. He's like, "There's nobody here." Like he's in a cell by himself. So that's a little bit strange. We do learn what's up with that later in the book. Um, he does try to stage an escape attempt, but he's caught. They put him through shock therapy. They kind of not full blown torture, but they put him through a lot of stuff while he's in the asylum. And over the course of all these treatments they put him through, he finally remembers who it was that he killed and all that kind of stuff. I won't say who it was, but when I turned the page, I was like, "Oh wow, that's interesting." And again, like if you didn't know this was a Night Terrors book, you could still read this and want to be like, "Oh, I got to read the next issue to find out what's really going
Yeah.
on here." So a really good, like there was some good action. There's a nice like 2 page spread of him like busting through a window and doing all this cool stuff. So it's a really just another really solid entry into these Night Terrors 2 issue tie-ins. Just really good. So and like I said, when he finds out when all is revealed, like it's like, oh, I got to read the next issue, find out how it gets out of all this. So really really good. I highly recommend this if you're trying to figure out which of the tie-ins to pick up. I recommend this one. It's really good. There's our A cover right there, and we have some tie-ins as well. We've got our Jason Sean Alexander variant. This is the Dustin Nguyen variant that he's been doing for all of these, and then this is the Matina variant that kind of like looks like some of the other ones he's done with a Nightwing does not show up like doesn't look like that in the first.
I thought it was one of the Blue Beetle variants because
Oh
it has a
yeah.
very like a Blue Beetle armor
Yeah,
look to it.
that actually is really cool, but that's not in the book. And then we have the 1 in 25 Georgiev variant that we're selling for $20, and that is gross.
Okay, next up I have Void Rivals #2. So you know this was the first one I read this week. I gotta see what else is going on in the new Energon
Yeah.
universe. So this is really cool. I feel like I'm slowly kind of learning how this is structured.
Oh, yeah.
Which sounds funny when
That
you're
was my big
reading.
question. Like, how does this gonna work?
Yeah, so I feel like part of me thought like, oh, once we found out that it's Transformers and GI Joe, it's going to be all Transformers and GI Joe
Yeah.
nonstop, all that. But no, Kirkman is really putting in the work to make you like these characters and want to follow their story as much as the other characters. Uh, so this one really focuses on uh, some of the backstory of we have our character Derek, Darak, and he's kind of our main protagonist from the first issue. He's the first one we follow who crash landed on that planet or asteroid. I'm not sure what it was. We learn that he's a prince, that his father doesn't think too highly of him, but this mission that he was going out on to find some kind of water in the universe was very important, and it's basically like you come back with it or don't bother coming
Oh,
back
okay.
type thing. So we get some backstory, and you really start to care about these characters, these two warring races, as we kind of jump forward and see where they're continuing their effort to get off of this asteroid. Um, we do see that Derek has a vision in this, and it's about their cultures and kind of the history of this. It's called the Sacred Ring that they live on that's been split. There's a black hole between it, and kind of about unifying these two races. Very interesting and does give you some kind of feeling of. I mean, it could be just because of what it is, but gave me some like Autobots and Decepticons
Mm.
vibes about like these are the same people but have been broken apart into these two factions that after generations have become more and more separate. So that's really cool. So Leela and Derek are two characters that we really do follow in this. We do learn more about kind of the hatred that the races have for each other, but how they are attempting to overcome it to get off of this place. It's just a lot of really good character stuff with them talking. But this does have a tie into the Energon universe as a larger thing. So I know that's what everybody's first question is going to be: does it have a GI Joe? Does it have a
Yeah.
Transformer? I'm not going to answer that question, but I will say there is there is something from one of those properties in this, and it may be a deep cut. I'll have to say when I saw what it was, it's one of those like you see it and you're like, I know that's a thing, but I'm not 100% sure what I'm
Yeah.
seeing. And so Googled it. Sure enough, came up. It's from one of those properties. So you'll have to read it to find out what it is. But I think it's a very cool kind of side entrance to one of those properties that you'll have to read to find out. But overall, great book. Continue. I think everyone should read it because there's a lot of really interesting world building going on as we reach closer to the Transformers #1 coming out and all of those other books. So we've got a few variants. We've got our B cover, and I did not write down who did it, but you get more of the two characters there. We've got this Mindy Lee variant. It's an incentive. This is a 1 in 10 that we are selling for $10. And we have this Darbo variant. This is a 1 in 25 that we are selling for $20.
Yeah, I can't wait to see. Because that's the thing. It's like Void Rivals. Oh, all we care about is the Energon universe. But don't forget, there's Void Rivals is its own story. Like there's
Yeah,
there's these other characters, and yeah, I can't
I
wait for.
hope people really give it the chance and continue with this one up until we get the Transformers and
Yeah.
everything, because I feel like this is going to play a really important part in that.
Yeah. Okay. Well, next I have Scrapper #1 from Image. This is a brand new series written by Cliff Blazinski or Cliffy B if you're a Gears of War fan or a fan of Epic Games. Also written by Alex DeCampi and then art by Sandy Jarrell. So wasn't quite sure what. I mean, we talked about it on our Comics from the Future show. Obviously read the solicitations, but still, I was like, what is this? It's a story about a dog in a post-apocalyptic world. Like, what is that? So that is true. It is about a dog named Scrapper. The setting is it's a city called New Verona, but it's a post-apocalyptic, but not like a nuclear post-apocalyptic where everything's a wasteland. More like uh, I can't think of like you see movies like where there's like one giant corporation that rules
Hmm.
everything, and there's automated sentries patrolling the streets, and it's all under the guise of this one giant corporation. It's that kind of post-apocalyptic. So this dog named Scrapper, who can talk, by the way, I'll go ahead and put that out there. And then his friend Tank, who that's Scrapper and Tank on the cover right there. They patrol the streets at night, and Scrapper is very noble, wants to help people in trouble. But Tank reminds him, you're just a dog. There's only so much you can do. One night they see a family getting attacked by one of these big sentries, and the company's name is SMITE, which stands for Special Monopoly for Industrial Tech and Engineering. I don't know if I mentioned that, but there's a family, there's a husband and wife, and their daughter is getting attacked by one of Smite's robotic sentries. The girl is taken, and Scrapper leaps into action, and we see him like jump here to a fire escape to this, and he actually gets up on the flying sentry and is able to rescue her, which is pretty heroic. He then later goes back to the place where he stays, where we learn he was taken in by a man and a woman who own like a pasta restaurant, so they always feed him ravioli. So we learn a little bit more about his backstory. We see like a flashback where they find him when he was a little puppy, and they're scratching his belly and everything. He's got this special collar on that they don't quite understand what that is, and he loves it there. Like
Does
there,
he talk to the people,
he
or does he
talks.
only talk to the other dogs?
Well, he talks to the other dog. He doesn't talk to his owners, but he did talk to the girl because she's like, "Oh wow, you can talk." And when
Okay.
she tells her parents, I would say by talking dog, they said, "Stop making up nonsense," you
Okay.
know. But as far as I know, he didn't talk to his owners. They did make mention how they are behind on their rent for their restaurant, and they're trying to make ends meet. When all of a sudden another of Smite's drones comes busting through the wall and says, something like, "You're late on your payment. It's a violation of code, whatever, whatever." And during that, trying to think where I want to stop this. Well, some interesting thing happens during that conflict where we see that Scrapper is something more than just a dog. There's something special about Scrapper. And during that whole altercation, there's something special with his collar. And he doesn't know yet, so he's kind of going on. He's going on this journey to learn who he is as well as, and we are too. We don't know much about him, so I don't want to say anything more because I was reading it. And I turned the page. I was like, oh, what is
Hmm.
that? That's really cool. And the last page, says something that I really want to learn about. So this wildly exceeded all my expectations for it. It was super interesting. I absolutely want to read the next one because I want to find out what is up with Scrapper. There's, like I said, something special about him. What is it? Where did he come from? All that kind of stuff. So I highly recommend this. The art was really good. I like the design of the dogs and everything. It's just really, really good. If you're a dog fan, like if you like something like Stray Dogs, this doesn't lean horror like that did, but still, it's just another good book with dogs.
It kind of reminds me of the game Stray, but
Oh
that has
yeah,
cats,
yeah,
but it's kind of that like animal in a very like robot world
yeah,
with stuff like that.
yeah. But yeah, it was just I was very pleasantly surprised. Very, very good. I recommend Scrapper. I really like this one quite a bit. So we've got a couple variants. This is our A cover right here, and then we have two, I believe. Yep, two variants. This is from Ferreira, Juan Ferreira, and
Still makes me think of that Batman cover.
yeah, where he's like, actually, that may be an
Maybe
homage to that, where he's
homage.
got he's not standing on a gargoyle, but. And then this is our Jarrell variant as well. But yeah, this one was just a fun read that made me want to keep going. I really liked it.
I feel like we needed a thing for our show that's like a special, like it wasn't on my pull list, but now it
It's
is
gonna
type
be, yeah,
thing.
yeah. I didn't pre-order it,
Yeah,
and it's
we need a special thing like that. Like it made it onto the pull
yes,
list.
absolutely,
So I feel like that's gonna be true for me
yeah.
because the way you described him, like, oh, this does sound more than just like a dog book, which it kind of
It
comes with,
is,
it's like a dog movie, it's a dog book,
yeah.
it's
It is more
it's
than that for
dogs.
sure.
Well, next up, I've got one that was actually already on my pull list. This is Big Game.
Mhm.
So,
Can't wait for that one.
this is a no pun intended a big one this week. If
Ah,
you are a fan of Mark Miller and all of his properties, I almost feel like I don't want to list all of his properties because it may give away even some stuff you haven't thought about that could be in this. So, Big Game by Mark Miller and artist by Pepe Larraz, who is fantastic,
yeah, I
so
love
so
his work.
good. Um,
It's been a long time since we've seen him do anything too. I guess he's been working
yeah,
on this.
yeah, he did a lot of really good stuff at Marvel.
Yeah.
Was where I kind of first followed him. So in this, we learn that it's kind of a throwback. I think back to I think it's 1983, 1984, and this is where there's tons of superheroes and villains. It's kind of your classic superhero world, but the villains, very colorful, very kind of makes you think of Marvel or DC villains, killed all the
Yeah.
heroes, which I believe is the backstory in
Wanted.
Wanted.
Yeah, that's what Wanted. Well, the comic, not the movie. But yeah,
Right,
that's the
yeah.
backstory of the comic. Yeah.
So you start to piece together what version of the Miller universe is this? Because I'll say you have all of these crazy properties, Chrononauts, you have Ambassadors, you have Jupiter's Legacy, you have Wanted. This explains how they're all in the same world,
Okay.
and it's no weird like time portal or
Or
dimension
incursion
hopping.
of smashing of
Nope,
worlds or
it is
anything.
all and has always been the same world.
That's cool.
So
I
I
like
think
it.
that's super cool
Yeah.
because part of me is like, there's gonna be somebody falls through a portal into
Yeah.
another thing and they go, oh, it's you. No, this is something else. So There is an explanation for that. I won't give it away because I actually think it's really cool.
That's cool though because like in Wanted, we know like you
Yeah.
said, heroes were killed a long time ago. But then I'm thinking about okay, there weren't any heroes in Wanted, but now like I think about a book like Nightclub. Oh, there's these three kids that are acting like heroes. Are we gonna have to deal with heroes again? Like if I'm
Yeah.
a villain, like oh, are heroes coming back? Like that's really neat.
That's kind of the story of this.
Oh,
Is
okay.
because the heroes are starting to pop back up,
Oh,
and that is your nightclub. That's Chrononauts.
Jupiter's
That
Legacy.
is Jupiter's Legacy is one of the before time things. You'll have to see how that is.
Huh.
But
Okay.
even ambassadors, all that. Ambassadors is a
Ooh.
big part of this.
Yeah.
Is that's the really public bringing back of superheroes.
And that's great because the Ambassadors was fantastic. So if you ever read Ambassadors, I recommend that. And it's cool to know that they play a
Yeah,
part in this.
and this is just going to be us end up talking about all the Mark
Yeah.
Miller stuff we read.
Right.
But if you read Ambassadors, you remember at the end they talk about, oh, do you think we need American representation
Yeah.
on the team? This picks up from that, where they
Okay.
are looking for possibly an American representation on the Ambassadors
Okay.
team.
Nice.
And without giving anything away, I'll see if I can skirt it as much as I can. There's a character you already know who may have been the instigator for all of the heroes coming back, who is a bit older now and thinks he may be someone who should be the American representative of that universe, of that thing. So, very, very cool. There's a bunch of cameos in this. I will say, I've maybe, reading this, I'm like, I get 50% of this. I've read about
Yeah.
50% of these books. There's some characters that are referenced that I'm like, I think I should know who this is, but I don't necessarily know. But it does make me want to go back and read a lot more. There's some reveals that will be up to the individual person how big they are. But I think as long as you've read like one of his properties, you'll have a character or a theme or something to connect to. So this is just a mini series. I believe it's 5 issues. I think pretty much everyone will have a good time with it. Like I
It sounds
said,
awesome.
with the new heroes rising up, the villains who have been ruling the world want to stop that. That is where Nemesis comes into play. He is hired to take out
That's
the
so cool.
heroes.
Yeah.
So just overall, dark but a lot of fun, a lot of characters, and to see all these work together is really cool. So I suggest picking up Big Game if you've read any of Mark Miller's series. I think you'll find something in here to like. And if you've never read any of them, I still think it's accessible. You may just not get the kind of nods and winks, but
Just know that all these characters are from other books
yeah,
from the last 20, 15 years.
yeah, quite a
Yeah.
while. So very very cool. We've got some variants that show off some of the best characters. So we have this J.G. Jones variant. I like he's pulling back a lot of the original artists who worked on these
Oh yeah.
titles too. We have, funny enough, not a Ramita Jr. variant, but we do have the Jay Lee variant.
Ooh.
We have, this is the Danny Earls variant with Nemesis. We have the Frank Quietly variant with Jupiter's Legacy. And then we also have this black and white Laraz variant. And we have the blank sketch cover variant as well.
You can draw in all of the Miller world
Everyone
characters.
think of.
Yep. All right. So next, going back to Marvel, is Moon Knight: City of the Dead. This is the first issue in a 6-issue miniseries, 5, 6 issue. It's a miniseries, but I forgot how long it was. This is really cool because this is the first appearance of Layla El Fayoly as the Scarlet Scarab. So that's the character that we saw in the TV show. Her first appearance in comics was in Moon Knight 25 that came out a week or two ago. But her first appearance as the Scarlet Scarab in like the costume that we saw her in the show at the end of the show, first appearance in that costume is in this book. And it's really interesting. So there is in this book, there's a gang called the Sons of the Jackal, and at the beginning, they're chasing this boy named Khalil Nasser, and there's narration. The Moon Knight says, Khalil is a regular at the Midnight Mission. He needs help. He's a young boy on the bad streets. He needs help from Moon Knight quite often. Moon Knight swoops in and saves him from this group, but Khalil is injured in the process. He actually gets shot. Moon Knight rushes him to where Hunter's Moon is, because Hunter's Moon, I think his real name is Badir. He's kind of like a doctor, and he's able to save Khalil physically. But he said he was dead on the table for 5 minutes. I was able to bring him back, but there's no brain activity. And then Moon Knight says, "Well, wait a minute. I'm not going to let him die. I know how to get him back." And he says we have to find his soul. So he gets Hunter's Moon to perform this ritual that sends him to a realm called the Duat, aka the City of the Dead. It made me think of the show. Remember when they like when they were on that boat? Didn't they go to like some realm and they
Uh-huh.
were trying to like save somebody? They're trying to save. It kind of reminded me of that. He goes, but it's like this otherworldly place. It's not exactly hell. It's not heaven, but it's
Just
just
kind of an afterlife. It's
yeah,
an
it's an
Egyptian
afterlife. That's a great way to
afterlife.
put it. It's an afterlife, and Moon Knight calls it the City of the Dead. And but it looks like so he's navigating the streets of this afterlife to try to find Khalil. And it's all can't think of the word for it, but it's all afterlife. He does track down some of the sons of the Jackal that he did kill and sent to the afterlife, and he fights them too. And he says, where is Khalil? Where are you holding him? Um, but while he's fighting these sons of the Jackal, they power up, and he realizes that they are wielding the power of the four horsemen. And they even mention Ensab and Nur, Apocalypse,
That's
from
cool.
like, the like back in like 5000 BC or whenever he was, because it's all Egyptian, right? So they're wielding the power of the four horsemen, and those aren't the only villains there that he'll have to face off in his quest to find Khalil's soul. There's a whole lot of other villains that he has taken out and sent to this otherworldly place as well. And the last page is just like a splash page of all these different villains that are just chomping at the bit to get at him now that they know that he's in this realm. So it was really cool. It doesn't, like I said, it doesn't take place in New York, but it's kind of the same thing. He's trying to help somebody. He's just not in the real world anymore, basically, and that's where your City of the Dead title comes in. Really, really good. Like I said, first appearance of this third Scarlet Scarab, Layla El Fayoli. She's there to help him too. And what I didn't realize, we saw her in Moon Knight 25, but we saw her in flashbacks to Mark Spector's early days
Hmm.
as a mercenary. So I guess what I didn't pick up from that is, I guess maybe she died at some point, and that's why she's in this City of the Dead, and she's probably going to come back at some point. I guess, but it's a really solid issue. Like, Moon Knight's been great. This is written by David Pepose, and so Jed McKay's doing the main series. So a different writer, but still really good. If you're enjoying that Jed McKay Moon Knight run, I recommend this too, because it was really interesting, and you know, I want to see more of Scarlet Scarab and the City of the Dead and all the villains he's going to have to fight while he's there. So it was really, really good. I liked it a lot. There's our A cover right here. We've got a couple variants as well. Speaking of the new Scarlet Scarab, there she is in all of her glory on that. This is by De Vigo. And then we've got this nice
I love
foil
this.
cover. This one's really cool too. Pepe Larraz of Big Game fame. Nice foil cover. This is our Alex Maleev cover right there. And then you gotta have a Scotty Young cover, and this one's great. Scotty Young, and there's probably some mummies, or maybe that's the four horsemen that he's fighting in the City of the Dead, and then there's Moon Knight making a moon. So yeah, some good covers for a good.
And my next one is Night Terror's Superman #1. So this one is really good. So far, we were saying I think Night Terrors has had more hits than misses,
Definitely.
and this is no exception. So one of the things I really like about this, it's written by Joshua Williamson, who is your current writer on Superman. So
And he's helming the Night Terrors the
yeah,
whole event.
so the whole thing kind of feels like, yeah, this is uh uses some of the big parts of the Night Terror story and Superman to kind of make this feel very important. The art is by Tom Riley, and this is really cool. So this actually picks up in from Night Terror's First Blood, where they discover what's his name on the table.
Oh, Dr. Destiny.
Yeah, Dr. Destiny, where he's like strung up on the table in the Hall of Justice, and Superman is gonna fly off to go do something, be Superman, and find
I've got to
help.
go
And
be Superman. I'll be back
yeah,
later.
but that's when the he gets real sleepy.
Yeah.
Superman gets really sleepy.
He needs the rest.
He needs a rest. No, he gets hit with the kind of night terrors, whatever it is, and he falls asleep. Literally falls asleep because he is flying over the ocean. It hits him, and most of this issue happens in his nightmare while he falls, which is just a really cool storytelling motif. It's a cool back and forth where you see what he's doing in his dream and that.
It reminds me of Inception too, where they might be falling, but in the span of a fall, in their dream they're living like a whole life,
Yeah,
or they're
yeah.
doing a
The
whole thing.
the time and
Yeah, the
space and
time difference.
everything
Yeah.
don't mean anything. So in his dream, he is working at the nightly planet. Of course, and play off the daily planet. Um, and what I really like is kind of, I don't know, I think a lot of these writers have really captured kind of dream logic because in almost every panel, Lois and Jimmy Olsen look different. They're kind of a different time frame and a different version of their characters from different series and all of that, which is really fun. Of course, Clark doesn't think anything of it, but it's Superman, so he does realize that something is off, and this is kind of the Superman fighting back issue, and it's so much fun. I don't want to give too much away of it, but it's kind of like the Hal Jordan Green Lantern one,
That
where
was a good one.
he's trying to figure out. Uh, Insomnia is trying to figure out what is the thing that is really gonna be the Superman's nightmare.
Yeah.
And is it Krypton's destruction? Is it the fact that Superman also made me think of a scene in Smallville? Everyone's gonna die and Superman's still gonna be around.
Yep.
That kind of like fear of like loneliness and all of that. It's a classic scene in Smallville where he sees his future and it's just him flying
Yeah.
in space and stuff. Very cool. But so Superman has to overcome this, and the whole time he's not dressed as Superman. He's Clark Kent, in like a white button-down shirt and like slacks, but his shirt's ripped open, and the S is cut into his chest so much
Ooh.
you can see his ribs and his organs through it. Dude, very cool. McFarlane needs to make a figure of these
Yeah,
versions
I
of
bet he
Superman.
will. Oh yeah.
But really cool, and the entity that is trying to show him these things, very a la Christmas Carol, is the Super Reaper. Now, I don't think he's ever actually named that in the issue, but that's kind of what all the solicitations have been calling him. But the my other big note of this is, for one thing, uh, the dream realm. Someone from not Superman's dream is going to crash into his, bringing a whole host of their own nightmares with them that Superman and this character is going to have to contend with. Plus, you do find out that there is some other characters who did not fall asleep. We don't quite know why yet, but they are coming to Superman's rescue, and it makes me very, very excited
Ooh, can't wait.
for not only the next issue, but it seems like there is a bigger story with these characters to come.
Nice.
So, just so much fun. I love this era of loving Superman.
Yep.
Every time I pick up a Superman book, I'm excited because Superman's great, and this continues that. So we've got some variants for this. We've got our Matina variant, and that's kind of Super Reaper you see up there. He's pretty cool looking. We have our Ward variant, and we have our Dustin Nguyen variant. So some very, very cool ones coming out this week for Superman Night Terrors.
Well, sticking with DC, but not a Night Terrors book, we have Harley Quinn, Black, White, and Redder #1. So this is another of the Black, White, and Red, Black, White, and Blood that Marvel and DC are doing, where it's all the stories are in black and white, except for usually it's red. They'll color in the red bits, and it's an anthology book. So this one has three smaller stories in it. The first one is by Chip Zdarsky, Daredevil and Batman, and of course, a bunch of other stuff too. But Chip Zdarsky with art by Kevin Maguire.
Wow,
Yeah,
cool.
so that's a big one, and that one's fun because Harley and Ivy break into the Fortress of Solitude. And it's funny the way they do it, and it doesn't quite go the way they think it will. But that one's really good. There's another. The second story was my favorite one. It's written by Leah Williams with art by Nacha Bustos. This one's set in the past. I believe it's even before Harley became Harley. She was still Harleen, but she actually joins this gymnastics team who are like going for the gold. I think they're trying out for the Olympics or some special competition. But the girls on the team are really mean. It's like Mean Girls. They're like super mean, and one girl doesn't even gain like a pound, or she's got some water weight, and the girls are just giving her grief for it, like real bad. But also their coach is really mean too. So like everybody on the team's super mean, but they're really good also. But Harley is she and Harley is very good too. But she notices that the girls are really mean, and she's even betrayed by one of the girls who she thinks she's her friend. And she sees how mean the coach is very mean to her, and she doesn't let that go unpunished. So, uh, you know, typical Harley Quinn fashion, she gets her druthers at the end of that story. And then the last one is written by Paul Scheer and Nick Giovanetti with art by Tom Riley. And Harley steals a diamond. She works with some of the Joker's men who also want to leave him like she did. They work together to steal a diamond, but that all doesn't go as planned either. There may be a little bit of a double cross in there. So if you're a fan of the this one, yeah, if you're a fan of the black, white, and red books, and you're a fan of Harley Quinn, you're definitely going to want to get this one because this one just has some really good stories in it. So that's our A cover right there. We can see this version of Harley does not appear in the book, but I think she probably will later. With a couple different versions of Harley there. We've got this Gillum March variant, which is really, really nice.
Kind of a Superman homage.
Yep. And then this one is Art Germ. This is our Art Germ variant. Very cool. And even better than this one.
How do you make it better?
How do you make it better? You make it foil. You make it shiny. So our shiny foil Art Germ variant.
Very cool. My next one is Star Wars The Rebellion. So this is our penultimate issue in the Return of the Jedi 40th anniversary series they've been doing of one-shots. Our last one is the Max Rebo one, but this is The Rebellion. It's not just Admiral Akbar, but he is in it. So one thing is cool. It's called Star Wars The Rebellion, but there used to be a series called Star Wars Rebellion that was a really good series from Dark Horse. This one is there has been a hit put out on Mon Mothma. This takes place 3 days before the Battle of Endor. So this is kind of just the boiling point of the Empire and the Rebellion, and Mon Mothma has a meeting to go meet with a certain person that might help uh, push them over the edge to defeating the Empire. So she can't go into hiding. She has to do this meeting, and that's going to leave her vulnerable. Akbar is the only one who knows about this assassination that's going to be taking place because he's got some Imperial spies that have told him. So he is going to call upon some of his best people to go and try to track down these bounty hunters that are going to do this and stop them. And those two characters are Shira Bay and Kes Dameron, who are Poe Dameron from the sequel trilogy's parents. So they're very cool characters.
We've seen them before in
Yeah,
some
they
comics.
popped out here and there, but you realize they're like really big deals in like the turning the tide of the rebellion and have been in very key missions and stuff. Very very cool. So you see them and their attempts to find out who this is by and stop them. Just a fun one shot story. There's some really cool new bounty hunters in it. They're not all named. There's one that is really cool. He's got like two eye stalks. I forgot what species he's is. Or an Arcona we've seen from the Cantina scene, but one of his eyes is the like basically what IG-88's head is. So he's got a normal eye and then like this big robot head eye. Just really cool character designs and stuff. So if you liked all of these, you'll want to pick this one up to get closer to completing your anniversary collection. Just really fun one. Akbar does not say it's a trap. I'm sorry, even though I'm sure he's thinking it.
Missed opportunity.
We have the connecting variant, and we have this really nice, very film poster like Rod Rice variant.
All right, so next for me is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles: The Last Ronin Lost Day Special. So if you're a fan of Ninja Turtles, if you've been enjoying The Last Ronin and also The Last Ronin: The Lost Year miniseries, you definitely want to get this one, especially if you really like the new Turtles that is in that story. That's some of my favorite parts of those miniseries is when we get to see the new Turtles. Because this issue, it's a one shot and it's all about them and April. So it's not flashing back to them for a page or two and then going to something else. It's all about the young turtles, the new ones. So normally April's daughter Casey trains them, but she's actually taking them off to go on a date. So April says, "I'll stay here and watch him," but she actually doesn't. She sneaks him out because she April has to go run to the black market, and she brings the young turtles with her. And what it is, it feels kind of like a side quest in an RPG where I've got to go here to get a thing so I can give that thing to somebody else.
Like a fetch quest.
Yeah, so that I can get a thing, and I got to give that thing to somebody else who will give me a thing and so they go all through the black market, bartering and trading items, one thing for another, for another, for another. And she's got the young turtles with them, and it's just a great, even though it's not the first appearance of the young turtles. It's a really great introduction to them because we haven't spent this much time with them before, and we haven't spent a full book with them before. They've only been on a few pages here and there, so we get to really see their personalities more. I finally know their names. We get to see them interact with other people that April knows, and we even get to see them. There is a gang called the Purple Dragon Gang that just for a page or two gives them a little bit of grief. And we get to see the turtles kind of take them out, and they're still young. I think they're like 12, I think in this issue. But it's just a really cool story with April and the young turtles, and it has a very, very nice ending. And it's not like a big, ooh, what's this setup? It's just a very pleasant ending. It's just a nice one and done story with the new turtles. So yeah, if you've been enjoying Last Ronin, you definitely want to get this because the new turtles are great. So this is our A cover here, and then we've got our Eastman variant. And then I like this one, Elizabeth Beale's variant. I guess they still like pizza. Everybody likes pizza. And then we have our 1 in 25 Escorza's variant that we're selling for $25. I like that one.
Yeah, that one's really cool. And before I forget, can't believe it's taking this long to mention it, you can head over to infinityflux.net where you can order these books right now. You can pre-order upcoming books, the variants, all of that good stuff. Everything that you pre-order, you get 10% off of. So head over there. You can follow along. All this stuff we're showing off in the show right now is available. So moving on with my next one is Tales of the Teen Titans starring Starfire. So this is a new miniseries they're doing. I believe it's 4 issues that's spotlighting a member of the Titans or the Teen Titans. This is in continuity, like it is going on right now, because they do mention kind of taking the place of the Justice League. So this is kind of currently going on, but it's kind of bonus story feeling. Other than that, it feels like it could fit in with any time. So this is written by Shannon and Dean Hale, and the art is by Javier Rodriguez. And what I will say is, this is the Teen Titans that I've read probably the most, where it feels like a little bit of Teen Titans Go. Not as like outlandish and loud and cartoony, but the way like I could hear those versions of the characters' voices, especially Gar, Beast Boy. Like he's being very much of like the kind of the prankster and the kind of goofball type character. With Dick Grayson being kind of very like focused leader type thing. Just really fun. So, but in this one, it focuses on Starfire, where Beast Boy is actually like kind of talking about their team, and he's saying what each of them is. Like, oh, Robin or Nightwing, he's like the brooding protege of Batman, and uh, Raven is the daughter of a demon and with dark powers, and Starfire is a princess from another world. And this really bothers Starfire. She's basically like, "Is that all you think I am? Is just a princess from a world that's like," she basically says, "no longer there." I'm not sure if Tamarin got destroyed or something, but this really kind of just makes her frustrated and uh, kind of separates her from the team when they get a call from Oracle that says that there's a kind of killer bees going on somewhere, but she, I don't know, secretly, but side radio Starfire and says, "Hey, you can let them do this, but there's actually some of your people, some Temporarians or whatever, that have shown up locally and they're needing assistance. And this sounds like the perfect job for you." And through this whole thing, every time she meets with those characters from her home planet, they refer to her as Princess. She still doesn't like this, but turns out that there is they've set up I think it's kind of like a moon base for their people, their surviving people, and it's being attacked by a monster, and so Starfire is going to have to go there and protect it, but kind of also come to terms with the idea that she is actually still the princess for these
Mm-hmm.
people. It's really good. It's a really sweet issue. Feels very classic Teen Titans. Like I said, feels, maybe you could call it more like the first Cartoon Network Teen Titans
Yeah.
series. Kind of feels like that. But just really fun. And yeah, I recommend it if you're a big Starfire fan. So that is our A cover. We also have some great variants for this. So let's see. Here is our, this is our Art Germ variant. But once again, how do you make it better? That's right. You make it foil.
Very nice. So I've got another Night Terrors book, Night Terrors Punchline, #1. This one was actually quite good. I don't know much about Punchline because I still haven't read Tynian's run on Batman yet, but I really like this one. So this is another one where it could be just a regular issue, but there's a little thing, little something off, and Punchline doesn't know she's in a nightmare too. So it's cool that some are like that and some aren't. When this one, it starts off with Punchline robbing a bank with the Royal Flush Gang, and but it's weird because in the nightmare everybody's asleep except them. So it's another one of those Inception type things. um, Batgirl shows up to take them out, and Punchline kills her. Like slams her down on like a broken window, and she gets
Oh
impaled by the
gosh.
glass. So if you were not, if you
Brutal.
yeah, if you didn't know this was Night Terrors, you'd be like, oh my gosh, she just killed Nightwing or Batgirl. Then Punchline, gets access to the clock tower that Batgirl slash Oracle operates out of. She goes in there and she's looking around, and there's just a couple little things that you as the reader notice, but that she doesn't like. She's making note of all the pictures they have, all the portraits that they have. It's like a Bat family, and there's one that actually even we can barely see. I kind of like squinted, and it's a portrait of Batman and Robin, and it's just almost, the page almost cuts it off, but Robin's head is a skull.
Oh.
But it's super duper subtle. Otherwise, it just looks totally normal. But then a grotesque Batgirl shows up to fight her, and it's like, oh gosh, how does she not know yet what that's gonna be like? So I don't know if at that point if she knows she's in a nightmare or not, but just it was really good. Like it was really, I just love all the subtleties that some of these
Mhm.
books are throwing in there. So it's just another worthy addition to all the Night Terrors miniseries. There's our A cover right there. We got a couple variants. This one is disturbing. This is our Ben Oliver variant. And then this is our Schmidt, which that's disturbing. Also, all these are disturbing. And our Dustin Nguyen, what are the name of these? I can't remember,
I
but
can't
yeah,
remember.
but the
It's
one
a
he's doing, yeah,
series, but just for the number ones. It's
that's
just a
right,
number
yeah.
one series. Interesting. Okay, next up, I have a new Red Sonja book. This is Red Sonja #1. What's really cool about this? It's written by Tarun Gronbeck, who is a writer on
Oh yeah.
Thor, the Thor story that just wrapped up. So we've got a lot of time to work on Red Sonja. This picks up. By the way, the art is by Walter Giovanni, and this picks up after the events of the Free Comic Book Day Red Sonja #0, where she is kind of framed for murder, or at least it's suspected of murder. But it's one of those things of like, someone was killed, and she like picks up the body, is like, oh no, and then someone goes, look, she did it,
Oh
type
yeah.
thing. So she is on the run, and she goes to a monastery where she's actually friends with like kind of the head of the monastery, who is not a great guy. He's kind of a swindler type
Mm.
thing, but of course he's friends with Red Sonja because they run in the same circles. But he basically says, "Hey, you need to get out of here. Um, if these people really are looking for you, you're not safe. So you need to get like out of this country, basically." Which sets up an interesting storyline going forward of her kind of in new places on the run. The other thing that's going on, it kind of goes back and forth, is there is a town that you could basically say is cursed. Like they have just been doing horrible, like nothing grows, everybody's sick, all of that. They say basically the gods have turned against them. When one priest, you can tell he's a bad guy because he's got a scar
Of
over his
course.
eye,
Yep.
um, makes a sacrifice that is pretty brutal, and the town turns around and is now nice again, and they're all praising him and everything. And he basically says, well, we've done enough just to defend our little town. Let's grow it and take over more. And so it kind of sets up a bigger story going on. But if you're a fan of Red Sonja, I think this is a really good uh, solid story, and I think it's got some really good humor. I think Red Sonja works really well when there's some humor in it because she's kind of a flies by the seat of her metal bikini
Right.
type character, and so it's fun to see her go into a bar and kind of how she deals with that. Plus, there's might be a little supernatural element of something that is following her as she's on the run that I think is really fun. So that is Red Sonja #1. This is our A cover. I believe this is a Prio A cover. And this has a lot of variants. So let's get into them. We've got the Kevin Eastman variant. We've got this is almost more than I can hold. This is the Brian Hitch variant. We've got the Mr. Garson variant. We've got the Jim Chung variant. We've got the Mike Mignola variant. Very
Nice.
cool that Mike Mignola's doing one for Red Sonja. We've got the cosplay variant. We've got the Jenny Frizen variant. Then we have a 1 in 10 Jenny Frizen variant that we are selling for $8.
I
We've
like
got,
this one right here.
yeah, this is the 1 in 10 action figure variant that we're selling for $5. We've got the Lensner variant. It's a 1 in 10 that we're selling for $5. We've got a 1 in 10 Rio variant. We're selling for $5. No, wait, there's more. There's a 1 in 10 Berens variant that we're selling for $5. There is a 1 in 15 Sideshow Collectibles, which is a super nice statue.
Yeah.
We're selling for $5. And
Oh, I like
the
this one too.
last one, well, actually, next to last one, this is a 1 in 15 Classic Icon variant for $10. Very cool retro. And then there's also a 1 in 20 Mr. Garson Collage Virgin variant that we're selling for $10. Just a couple.
Just a couple. I'm glad that Dynamite's finally doing some variant covers.
Yeah.
You know. So next is just a real simple one. This is called the Blue Beetle Special Edition, which is really just it's a reprint of the Blue Beetle #1 from 2006, written by Keith Giffen and John Rogers, art by Cully Hamner. This is the one that originally came out right after Infinite Crisis when the Jaime Reyes Blue Beetle first appeared. This was his first solo series, and like I said, this is just reprinting the first issue of that. I actually haven't read too much Jaime Reyes Blue Beetle. I don't know as much about him, but I'm very excited for the movie, and I very much want to read some Blue Beetle books to get prepared for the movie. And if you're like that, then this is a good place to start. It was really good. He, we see him fighting Guy Gardner, who thinks he's like a bad guy, and interspersed with that, we see Jaime Reyes like interacting with his friends and his family. So we meet them too. So we learn all about Jaime. We learn all about his supporting cast. We get a little bit of a showcase of what his powers are like. it kind of makes me think this is kind of what the movie will be.
Mhm.
Is we learn about him, we learn about his family, we're introduced to his powers and that kind of stuff. So just a really really good introduction to Jaime Reyes Blue Beetle. If you are excited for the movie and haven't read too much, that would be a good one to get.
Next up, I've got Night Terrors Catwoman. I'll be honest, this one kind of took me for a ride as I was trying to figure it out because it is very dreamy.
Mhm.
Catwoman is in her dream, has her sister, who is kind of a warrior nun character called Sister Zero. And so a lot of this is I haven't been up to date with the current Catwoman stuff, so I'm
Yeah.
not sure if any of this is reflective of that. But we do have Catwoman who has been through a lot and is kind of learning from this Sister Zero, lives with her at this church or this convent or whatever. But they both kind of go out for vigilante stuff. Uh, and one of their things, there is some clowns at Amusement Mile that they're going to stop. So the team kind of goes out to take them on when they run into Batman. But this version of Batman seems very new.
It's brand new, yeah.
Like he doesn't have a Batmobile, he doesn't have a cave.
She
Or
she
he does
even
have a cave.
well she calls him Batman, and he says, "How do you know that name? I've never told anybody that name. I haven't even written it down. I'm still unsure of it." So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, so it's very interesting, but she's like, "Oh, I know who you are." And she doesn't it feels like she's not quite putting it together that she's in a dream. She's like, "Oh, well then
she doesn't
what
think it's suspicious at all that he's brand new. She
yeah.
just like accepts it.
Yeah, and she's like, "Well, then I guess I'm gonna take you back to your Batcave that you think I don't know about,
Yeah,
and all this stuff." It's just a very interesting kind of like time mix up. What if Catwoman knew about Batman before Batman knew about
yeah.
Batman? There's this nun sister character. It's just very odd. The art is fantastic by Layla Lees, who I feel like we're gonna be seeing a lot more of her since she's kind of worked her way up through some of the Blaze books and all that
Mm.
kind of stuff. And it's written by Teenie Howard. And there's also snakes in it, just like this cover shows, that is very disturbing. That kind of was trying to figure out. So read it for yourself and try to interpret the dream. We've got some variants as well. We have this. This is the Corin Howe variant. And we have the Dustin Nguyen variant.
Got one more Night Terrors book. I think where is it? Night Terrors Wonder Woman. The first of her two-issue miniseries, and really this is more like a Justice League Dark book than just Wonder Woman, because we also have Detective Chimp and Constantine in as well. Um, eh, what's cool about this book too is last week I remember saying it with, or a couple weeks ago with the Robin book, I talked about how Jason Todd and Tim Drake were in the same nightmare,
Mm-hmm.
and I was like, I don't really understand how that happens. Well, I'm a dummy. I should have realized it. And Constantine explains it here. The nightmare realm is a realm made up of everybody's collective unconscious. So everybody who is asleep is in the nightmare realm, which is one place. They're all just, I mean, it's huge, and I mean, it's like a supernatural place, and nobody's really interacting with anybody, but they're all in the nightmare realm. So that's how some characters can interact with each other. Because in this book, it's Wonder Woman, Detective Chimp, and Constantine searching for the other members of the Justice League Dark, and they have to go through this maze to do it. And there's one cool image where, or one cool scene where they're holding on to Wonder Woman's lasso of truth so they don't get split up. But then all of a sudden, the lasso of truth turns into barbed wire. So it's
Okay.
like still glowing gold, but it's barbed wire. And they all let go, and then they end up getting split up. Detective Chimp and Constantine go one way, and Wonder Woman goes another way. Constantine does end up finding the rest of the Justice League Dark, but we're not sure if it's really them because he's talking to them, but they don't know that he's there and Zatanna's there, so I guess that means it's not really them because she's actually awake in her book. But she talks about how she loved Constantine at one point. She's like, I wonder whatever happened to him.
Mm.
And he's like, I'm right here. But they don't see him. They don't realize that he's there. Detective Chimp actually does end up finding Wonder Woman, but she's busy taking on sort of a nightmare, a corrupt version of herself, but it's not one of the sleepless nights, I don't think.
Mm.
It's just like some other thing. Because at one point it says, I'm you. And that part was a little bit unclear. But just it was another, like I said, it's another really good entry into the Night Terrors miniseries. There's also a backup story with Nubia where she faces off against a real grotesque version of Gaia, who is like the mother of the Earth kind of thing. So just another really solid, another solid 2-issue miniseries right there. And we have a couple of variants as well. So, well, I guess actually, I guess yeah, that's who she fights in the book. So I guess that is one of the sleepless nights, right? That's who she fights in that. So that's really cool. That's the Matina cover, and then we have this super creepy Inhyakuli variant, and Wonder Woman's not having a good time there.
Okay, next up, I've got Star Wars Dr. Aphra number 34. This wraps up the Star Weird story. I kind of thought it was going on longer than this, but it's kind of just a 2-issue story. But that right there on the cover is the Star Weird. So Dr. Aphra's book just continues to be so much fun, so weird, kind of touching on the more outlandish side of the Star Wars universe. So we found out that Shakti and Aayla Secura, the Jedi's from the Old Republic or the prequel era, had locked this thing away, the Star Weird, by this bell that kind of keeps it from getting out. And of course, in the last issue, Aphra wanted that bell. She took it and it unleashed this thing. In this one, we get a little bit more info about what the Star Weird is. It's very interesting because it's like it kind of normalizes it, but also it's kind of a mythological figure. Just really, really cool. And they unleashed it and they've got to figure out a way to destroy it. So just a really fun issue that wraps up this Star Weird story and is going to be continued. The next issue is the Dark Droids tie-in issue for Dr. Aphra. So it's very, very cool with Star Wars Dr. Aphra number 34. And we've got a couple of variants for this. We have this is the Kyle Hutz variant, which is really cool if you want somebody to draw some weird. We've got the Return of the Jedi 40th anniversary cover. And we have the Jerry Ordway classic trade dress variant, this time with Luke and Aphra and R2.
Love those. And then last for me, we just wanted to mention Something is Killing the Children, number 31. This is in the middle of a story arc, so if you're reading this, you definitely want to pick this up. And if you're not reading this, probably not the best place to start because it's right in the middle. But we just wanted to mention it because it's got some cool variants. In this one, Erica Slaughter has been framed for murder, but the real culprit is a character named Charlotte Cutter, and Erica's trying to, and or also, I guess, in addition to that, Erica is trying to figure out how to kill her duplicitype. I just want to make sure duplicitype. I had to make sure I said that correctly. But yeah, I just wanted to shine a spotlight. We haven't talked about this in a while, I don't think, but still super good, still super interesting. There's our A cover here. Let me show you these really cool variants. This is the Jenny Frizen variant. And then, of course, how do you make Jenny Frizen even better? You make her shiny foil.
That's the theme of this show. Is how do you make it better?
How do you make it better? Yep. And then we've got a one per store Deladera variant we're selling for $20. And then how do you make a one per store better is wait a minute.
Is that the one per store or is the
This says one per store, but this one doesn't say anything. So I don't know if that's just open. Surely that's not just a maybe. I don't know. If that's just an open order cover, non-incentive, then you probably should run out and get it because that's really cool. But that's the same cover, but foil. I don't know if you can really see the foil.
Okay, and lastly, we have a book that it's amazing. It actually is the last one I'm talking about, but it
best
is
for last.
Batman Superman World's Finest number 17. So this wraps up the new Mazo storyline. So new Mazo, like the way Mark Waid crafts this story, like that the heroes are gonna win in the end, but like you're like halfway through and you're like, really see no way out of this.
Yeah.
Like they even say like New Mazo's like you're not gonna beat him. Like one of the like super intelligent scientists that's in it is like, I've thought about this. I've thought about future tech. Nope, nothing's gonna stop him. That's just how it's gonna be.
Yep.
And you're like, well, if he says that, I don't know what. But of course, Batman thinks, hey, there's something from the past that might help us with this. Just a really fun story, especially when you see kind of how it culminates. It's just a lot of fun. Um, that's like, oh, of course this would happen type thing. Just really good. Great to see all of these characters because there's a bunch of characters in this. There's one, the previous issue had a great scene of like all the heroes together.
Great.
There's a similar scene in this, but with all of the robots together. That's just really, really cool. And it does tease in this what the upcoming stories are going to be, which I didn't really know after this point what the next storylines were going to be. But it looks like we're going to get more of Kid Thunder,
Okay.
and we're going to be getting a origin of the Batman and Superman team up.
Oh, that's right. I read that they're actually sort of retconning their first appearance or their first meeting.
Yeah.
We're going to get a new story of their first time they met.
So I can't wait for that. So excited. So much fun. And we have a variant for this. This is the Cliff Chiang variant.
I love that.
Very classic. So that is it. It was a big, big week with a lot of really fun stuff, a lot of big books. So head on over to infinityflux.net, or if you're local, come over to infinityflux. Walk in the door.
Yep.
And pick them up yourself. But thank you so much for watching. Hopefully this gives you all the information you need going into your store this week, and you know better what you want to pick up. Join us again on Wednesday.
Yep.
I have to remember what day today is before I figure out what the next day is. Wednesday for our comics to pre-order in a flash show with a lot of really cool books that you can pre-order by that weekend. But until then,
see ya.
bye.